Welcome to the Anonymous Andrew podcast. Life and the choices we make, the choices other people make. This podcast is about relationships. Season 1 will be about red flags. Red flags such as gaslighting, narcissism, mental illness, addiction, and so many more. Join me each week as we discuss these topics with anonymous guests and professionals so we might better understand the nuances of these traits in our partners. Let's help each other tackle these issues. Like I say, been there, still doing that. Now on to the show. Anonymous Andrew here with a pre-note to this episode. So it has taken me many weeks to find a professional that will come on and talk about these red flags, the gaslighting, the narcissism, the cheating. And I finally found somebody that was willing to discuss these topics with us, and it turned out to be a good choice, a very good choice. It's a fantastic interview. She sheds a lot of her expertise in this area and even brings one of her own cases that she's treating somebody who went through a 30-year gaslighting relationship. So, on to the interview. Hello, everybody. Anonymous Andrew here. Another episode. And today we have something special. We have somebody special. Today I have Della Marie Mullins. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor based out of New York. And she has agreed to join me today to discuss the world of gaslighting and the victims in there, and why some of us choose to stay in these types of relationships. So Della, say hello, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me on. My name is Della Marie Mullins. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor.
Okay. And so your practice is in a family or relationships. Tell us a little bit about your practice.
Family. Yes, definitely. Basically, marriage and families, dealing with couples, individuals that suffer from self-esteem, anxiety, communication, anything pertaining to their relationships, anything sometimes pertaining to individuality of self-esteem, self-worth, anxiety, depression, anything in that realm I focus on.
Okay, so I reached out to you because I was in a 2-year relationship that I was blind to a lot of the red flags at the time, or I should say blind. I chose to ignore what I was seeing in front of me, and I was deceived and cheated on. But this woman was extremely good at, and the term is gaslighting. She knew how to manipulate me. And yet I chose to stay, and until the bitter end when it just imploded. I also understand that you have a case that you would like to present. So how would you like to talk about your case first, and then we'll go into the reasons why we stay? You want to tell us a little bit about?
Before I do that, Andrew, I'm hoping that you can allow me, because there's a lot of viewers out there that may have heard the term gaslighting, but not really familiar what it means. So if I could honestly just, great.
Please.
Okay, so gaslighting is a form of mental and emotional abuse. It's a form of emotional abuse in a relationship that one party convinces the other party that they're remembering things the wrong way, that they're misinterpreting the events or their behaviors, just to present themselves in a better light. That is what gaslighting means. And that happens a majority of the time. I see a lot of clients come in, my clients come in, 95% of the time they're dealing with one particular person in the marriage or relationship that's gaslighting them.
Okay.
And this is where I want to, the case that I want to bring to you, it was clients that I have had. I'm not going to mention the names, but this these two people, they're in a marriage 30 years as of today, and it's a polyamorous relationship. But the woman that agreed, the woman that agreed to the relationship, she got with him thinking that she was going to be the only one. Very smart, worked on Wall Street, uh, beautiful woman, very well to do. And the guy, very biblical, nice looking guy, got a lot of charisma, but he wooed her in terms of his looks as well as the Bible, because he's very into the Bible. In terms of why I say the Bible is because how he wooed her is because using the old terms of Moses and Solomon when they had multiple wives. So this woman got with him. The guy got started to have another relationship, had babies on top of in the relationship. The other woman stayed against her own will, against her family and friends' will. She stayed. And henceforth now, she wants to leave, but the guy gaslight her into thinking that if she leaves, then the Lord is going to punish her because the guy is the one that's supposed to divorce the woman or leave the woman, not the woman leaving the man. So in that relationship, I brought that case up because she's dealing with a huge form of gaslighting in that marriage that she's in. And she's unhappy and she doesn't really know what to do. So she came to me to try to build up herself and build up her self-esteem and try to understand what direction she can go. But she's older now, so leaving the guy now, it's a little harder from when she was younger to leave him, you know?
Well, when you've been with somebody, she's been with him for 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard to walk away from because she doesn't know. And about what age was she when she got involved with this man?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was about maybe 32, 33, young, very young.
Wow.
Very young. Probably a little younger. I don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
yeah,
No,
very young.
that's good. So let's say that half her life she has only known this man. And
yes,
so it's hard to walk away from something that you somewhere in the back of my head, the phrase "stay with the devil you know than the devil you don't" comes to mind, because if she leaves, she'll be lost. She'll be like wandering in the world, not knowing. I applaud her for coming to you to get help. I needed to go into I've been in therapy all my life, but I at the end of this relationship, my mind was so confused, and my self-esteem. And you had mentioned earlier, we talked earlier before we recorded, that this woman, she or the man transformed her, you said, he molded her into what so she became a different person in essence in 30 years.
Yes. She gave up all of her comfort creatures to basically form to what he wanted and what was his projection of acceptable. Covering her head, giving up wearing pants, wearing dresses, just giving up those certain different foods, and doing certain things. It was a lot, even in terms of just moving, because she used to reside here in New York City. Even just moving out of New York City to move to Connecticut, where the guy is actually at, and the other woman with the other kids are at now. So when you look at that type of dynamic of mental and emotional abuse, it affects you after a while. And the person that you used to be looking in, you're no longer that person, because the person that you're with, they chipped away at a lot of things, a lot of your strengths. And that happens when you're in those type of relationships.
Oh, yes. I know that all too well. Unfortunately, which I think leads us to why we don't walk away. Let's talk about that a little bit. Was there at any point in the 30 years that she knew that this wasn't healthy, or this wasn't what she wanted, and she wanted to leave, but she couldn't?
So many times she has told me in sessions that through the course of the year she wanted to leave him. She wanted to leave him when he came home and told her about the other woman, but she loved him. She believed in the potential of him. And I'm going to segue into what you just said of why you stay. And this is something that I told her. Majority of the time, men and women, a lot of times more so women, but men as well, we get and we stay with people because of potential, because we can see the potential in that person. If we feel like, okay, they, on my list, they may have 5 things or 6 things that, hey, I can deal with, but you overlook the remaining
Mm-hmm.
6 things, or the remaining 5 things that are majorly important, that's going to come back to hinder you in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the course of the years, you start to just settle and overlook a lot of the red flags that were there in the very beginning. So we stay because majority of the time, 95% of us, we stay because of potential, because we try in our head, we project the potential that we want to see in that person, not necessarily saying that that is the projection that the person is actually portraying to us, but we want to see that. So we stay and we try to, through the course of the years, and we try to mold that person into that projection, but it never works.
No.
It never works. Majority of the time, Andrew, most of the time when you get into situations like that, that person starts to start to go and conform to the other person, as opposed to the person conforming to a lot of your needs. And then you wind up, as time go on, you become a little bitter, you become angry and disappointed within yourself. Like, why am I settling for this? I deserve better. And
Right.
you inside, you question yourself. You're a little embarrassed because you don't want to tell your friends and your family that this is what you're dealing with. But you now have developed feelings for the person. So it's not so easy to leave, because now you're invested emotionally with this person.
You just hit the nail on the head. In the beginning stages of my relationship with this woman, she presented a persona of herself that was charming and generous and spiritual, and so many wonderful qualities that I saw, that I fell in love with. And once
Right.
I think once I was on that hook, like she was fishing and she caught me as a fish, once she had me and she knew that I was she had grasped me, her persona changed, and she started to do things her way and go out and live her life. And I was on the back burner. And when I would question her, where are you and why, she would take trips on her own and everything that you're explaining. And she would come back and basically say, if you don't like it, there's other people, other men that will come and take your place. Not unlike what this gentleman said to this woman: if you leave me, you'll be, how did he put it? That the
Lord
God,
is going to, the Lord will look at you, you'll be considered wicked and, and evil. And it's an abomination in the Bible for the woman to leave the man. The man has to divorce the woman.
So she is a religious person. She lived her life with the Bible. Do you think he prayed on her? I mean, do you know how they met?
How they met is she had several businesses here in New York, a couple of laundromats, She was down, like I said, down in Wall Street, working in the money market down on Wall Street. So she was well established woman. And the guy, I don't want to tear him down, but if we're putting on paper, he was nowhere near her caliber at that particular time. He was basically living from house to house. He didn't really have a stable job, but he had charisma, he had good looks, and he had charm. And a lot of times that works, and it worked, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that goes into what I also want to touch on, which, because you mentioned something, Andrew, in terms of in the beginning, in your situation, the young lady fed into so many things, calling and the love, the admiration and all of the attention.
Oh, yes.
That goes into love. You know what that's called? That form of behavior is called love bombing.
Love bombing. Yep.
And if you don't know what love bombing is when one particular person, when you get with the person in the beginning, they're flooding you with admirations and calling you continuously, showering you with gifts and promises and different grandiose things of what they want in a relationship and what they can add to the relationship and how they're going to be with you in a relationship. But in the back of their head, they have no intentions of doing those particular things, but it's just to go, like you said, a fish in, what did you say? A fish in water, reeling you in.
Yeah.
That's basically what love bombing is. It's like a overkill of admiration for someone, knowing that you have no intentions of actually falling on those things that you're promising that other person. And majority of the time, the other person goes, believe in that person. Once again, that word, potential, believe in the potential of that person. And they fall short of being in a very, very toxic and unhealthy relationship.
Sounds all too familiar. I was love bombed. She was the one that said, I love you first. And showered me with, she was very good with her hands, arts and crafts, and decorating. And she would come down to where I live and make things for me. Just sometimes, just like a pot holder she would make, and she would make gifts, just showered me with gifts. Some of them were something she bought or something she would make, and when somebody makes something for you, and if you're a decent person, you look at that and go, wow, they put a lot of time and effort to sit
Exactly.
there, sewing machine and put this together. And I would say to her, how did you know how to do this? And she says, oh, I look it up on YouTube. So she's watching YouTube, and while this is something she enjoys doing, but I would get a lot of gifts from her, and then of course the potential. We both wanted to move to Florida, and upon retirement or within at some point. So the promise of moving to Florida with me, and there was a lot of promises, a lot of. I fell in love with a potential version of this woman who really didn't exist. She made it up. Yeah.
She made it up.
And because she had a completely different lifestyle. She was doing, I keep alluding to this, and again, I'll dance around it, but she was doing something inappropriate.
Right.
And that's when I kept looking the other way, because I think a similarity between what your story and mine is, this woman was also very beautiful, and for her age, literally looked 15 years younger than she was, or maybe 20. And she also, from the country that she was born and emigrated here from, she was the runner-up to the Miss Universe pageant in her
Oh,
country.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got that at the beginning. I got the pictures, and I was runner up in my country, and so she was used, but again, showing me that I'm lucky to be with her. I'm the chosen one to be with her, because she has plenty of other men that would want to be with her. This woman was cheated on by her husband, and I think she was out to get revenge. I think so you like you had said that she had no intent of following through on any of these promises. She was looking for
Right.
someone to validate her, because her husband, when somebody's married for 20, 25 years and you get cheated on, I guess you would know this, your self-esteem, your self-worth the bottom drops out. My
Yeah.
husband went out and had an affair. What's wrong with me? Why doesn't he see me as beautiful anymore? So she needed to find someone to validate that for her, and I was the one. Anyway, so okay, so let's continue. So where is she today? She's still with him?
Yes, she is. She's definitely with them. Love them, of course. And then let me be clear, because I don't want to project like this guy is some horrendous guy, because he's not a horrible human being. He's just not for her. And here's the deal. Just because you get with someone and they do not treat you the way that you need them to treat you, or you need to be treated, doesn't make that person a bad person. It just means that they're not for you. So she's still with him. He's not a bad person, but he's not for her. And she, like I said, she's older, so the limits of leaving and trying to find someone else is a little stagnant. So she's staying. She's still with them. She's still with him.
I have two questions, or one question or one statement. Is he has he become financially stable? Because he had 3 children with this other woman. You alluded to earlier that he was kind of living paycheck to paycheck or house to house, or he wasn't financially well off in the beginning. Now he's got 3 children and 2 women. Is he supporting anybody, or are the women
He's
supporting him?
he has his own company. He has his own company, but he's not great with managing money. So it doesn't matter if you have your own company, but if you don't know how to manage your money and manage your finances to do the right thing, that's a hindrance with definitely with
Sure.
2 families, with 2 households. So that's the dilemma with that with him. And I mean, Andrew, a majority of the time in relationships, you know that the situation is so toxic and so unhealthy, but you make it work.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
you through the course of the years, you make it work. So again, this lady, she's a very pretty woman, very smart, very well to do, very quick, you know, but this is the guy that she loved. This is the guy that she chose to stay with, and she's making it work, although she knows in the back of her head that
It's
she
wrong.
should go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's never going to be okay, but she's making it work for whatever reason she knows.
Well,
You know?
it's also the fear of the unknown. For her to leave him, and I'm going to guess her age is probably somewhere close to my age, because if she started seeing him around 30, and you said they've been together for 30 years, she's around 60, I'm guessing at this point.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a scary time of one's life, because I turned 63 in 2 weeks.
All right.
It's a scary thought to be alone at that age, and not knowing what my future brings. I've now been single 5 or 6 months, and while I have been able to process this breakup, and this podcast is helping me move on and understand why I stayed. for me to go out and start dating, I'm scared of it. I think I will have trust issues. It's just an unknown territory for me at this age, and I think this woman would. I'm only basing mine on 2 years. I was married. I had another long-term relationship. I've had many relationships in my 30 years. Let's just say for comparison, this woman doesn't know anything else. So to go out there, I think if she was to leave him, she would have to obviously continue therapy with you and learn how to be alone for a while. And because dating would be just not a pleasant. That's why I say sometimes it's better to stay with the devil than the unknown, because stay with him, because at least I know what
I'm familiar.
Yep.
I'm familiar. And that's one of the things she definitely said to me, that the reasons why she stayed. One, because she do love him. She do care about him. And then two, she don't want to start over. She stated to me that she's at an age now where she don't want to start over.
Exactly.
She would literally have to start over. She's not comfortable with doing that. So that's where she's at now, So the only thing that I do now, and I talk to her, I check in on her and make sure she's okay and where her headspace is at. And as of now, she's comfortable. She's comfortable, and they're making their marriage and their situation work.
No, they don't all live together. He lives with.
No, she does. He doesn't. The other female lives, like, I guess you would say across town, or a little further away from where they reside. But yeah. So he splits a week with her, then a week with the other other lady with the kids.
And these two women know each other.
They know each other. They're familiar with each other, Andrew. They know each other. And the other woman is fine. It's like it's like she's like, oh, okay, that's just what it is. That's just how relationships work. And I don't know. I don't understand it.
I don't either. I don't either.
But one thing I do want to say is I commend this woman. The strength on her, the kindness, the strength, and just the mental capacity of her willpower and her strength to endure that over 30 years. That's something to be applauded, because a lot of women would not have been able to even endure that, not even for a second.
Yeah.
Relationships are so tricky, because we want, when we're single, we want to be in a relationship. And when we're in a relationship, we look so much just to be free, be our own individual self. And a lot of times that's because somewhere in the middle, if you're in a relationship, somewhere in the middle, there are things lacking in that relationship. If you're constantly seeking someone else's attention, you're on a dating app, you're doing other things, it's because somewhere in that relationship, that marriage, there's something lacking. And
yeah, I'm gonna bring up a subject that that I believe my ex has. Now, there's a difference. The term is narcissistic or narcissism. And so there's narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, and then there's narcissistic tendencies. And do you think this man, I don't know why I wanted to call him a gentleman. I just, I felt like saying this gentleman. I'll reserve that. Do you think he's narcissistic?
To some degree, not because when you go into narcissism is so deep. It's so much cognitive. when you're talking narcissism or narcissistic patterns and behaviors. So I wouldn't say on a high level of narcissism, but he is very self-absorbed. He is very
There you go.
self-absorbed, and we definitely know that narcissism, one form of narcissism, is being very self-absorbed. So I would say on a lower level of narcissism, but not on a high
Okay.
potential of narcissism.
And I would say the same about my ex. I don't see her as a narcissist, but she's on the low level of the self-absorption.
Right.
Yeah.
And that play when you're in a relationship and you from the very beginning, and you and I talked on the phone about this. I think it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You and I discussed this over the phone, Andrew. And correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of times in relationships, we don't set bottom lines. We listen. We know coming in, we know what we want, we know what we're not going to settle for. We know these things. But then that one person come in and we tend to forget everything that we initially said we will not tolerate. So what happens is when you do that with a person, when a person do something in a relationship, because in the beginning people test you in a relationship to see how far they can go and what they can get away with. So if say a person cheat on you from the very beginning, you guys are talking, dating, and you establish that it's your exclusive, and then the person comes in and they're still maybe talking to an ex or someone else, and you find out, and whatever the case may be, and you stay with the person because you want to see where it can go. You just now showed the person that you're going to settle.
Yeah. Oh.
That you're going to settle. So what happens is that they're taking mental notes. You're not paying attention to it, but they're right. But they're taking mental notes. And what happens is each time their behavior is going to get worse and worse and worse.
And they know that I'm going to tolerate it, or we're going to tolerate it.
There you go. There you go.
I told the story in one of my early episodes where she took a trip to Florida on her own. It was right after when COVID settled down. And she told me that she was going to go visit somebody, a friend of the family, and she had tickets to go down prior to COVID, but because of the airline shut down, she couldn't go. So now her tickets were viable. And I said, well, let's go together. I'll get a seat on the flight. And she was, no. You can't come. He's a friend of the family. By the way, in the beginning of this relationship, I was told we had to keep the relationship a secret. You know, I couldn't post on Facebook and I couldn't tell anybody. This was the very beginning. Those are the early red flags. And when she was down there visiting this gentleman, who she told me was also, I think he was a psychiatrist. So this is what she told me. They were staying in the same house, but supposedly in separate bedrooms. But there were so many times when she would send me some pictures of the two of them, and they looked a little too comfortable together for me. And the pictures she sent were just a little bit inappropriate. Like they were rolling around on the bed and they were taking selfies. And then one night we were FaceTiming and she was whispering like he's asleep in the other bedroom. And I said, that's when I tried to establish a boundary early on. And I put my foot down and I said, this is not appropriate. And you told me that this was a friend of the family and that there was nothing between you. I believe that this man and her had something going on. And I said to her, when you get back, we're going to sit down and I'm going to talk about whether this is the type of relationship I want to be in. And that's when I got the words, if you don't want me, there's plenty of men waiting to take your place. And so she broke right through that boundary and stepped all over me. And I relented. I took a step back and I said, oh, sorry, no, okay. And that was my weakness. And she pounced on it. And then from there, continued to do what she wanted to do. And not always, but a lot of times would wave it in my face or made sure I knew that I shouldn't say that, but she proceeded to do the thing she wanted to do, knowing that I wasn't going to challenge her on it. And
Right.
because, like you said, sometimes if we don't establish that boundary early on, they will take you. It's a vulnerability, right?
Right.
So,
And you teach people how to treat you,
right.
because coming into anything, whether it's a friendship, no matter on what level, people don't know how to treat you. People don't know what's your boundaries, what's your bottom lines. So how they learn them is through actions and through you verbally telling them. So if you're not verbally telling them, you're showing them through action, like, that's, you're crossing the line. I'm not going to tolerate that. But the more you allow, the more you turn a blind ear, the more that you are teaching that person how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's good treatment or bad treatment, that person is learning how to deal with you and what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. So although the
Wow.
person is at fault because they know what they're doing is wrong, but you're at fault because you gotta come in the beginning, you gotta set boundaries and you gotta set bottom lines. And no matter how much you like the person, you physically are attracted to the person, no matter what, you have to set bottom lines, because if not, you'll be in a whirlwind of a relationship that is toxic and unhealthy later, and you'll regret it.
And that's happened. That's exactly where I found myself, Della. I was not comfortable with these trips. She made another 2 trips to Florida, and I knew she was up to something, and I just kept looking for that potential that you spoke
That
about, and
potential.
yep. And she knew that she could get away with it because I let her get away with it in the beginning. Had when she said to me, "There's other men to take your place," I should have at that point said, "Well, then go find another man to take my place,"
There you go.
and stuck to that boundary. I tried to establish a boundary, and she, like an army, crashed right through it. And
Crash right through it.
okay, wow, thank you, because you actually, I never thought of it that way. That I gave her the
Smoking
permission.
gun.
Exactly.
Smoking gun.
Yeah, I never, I've been doing, this is my 10th or 11th episode on the podcast here, and I'm really trying to understand where I went wrong, how I went wrong. I will tell you this. I'm beginning to learn a little bit about the red flags, or just making, and the part of my podcast, the name is not just Anonymous Andrew, but Life and the Choices We Make.
Right.
I met a woman recently. I play a sport, and I don't want to get into it because there's people that I know listen to this. And there was a woman at this event, and she was beautiful. And of course, now being single for 6 months, that the natural male instinct hormones are kicking in. Like, I got to find a mate. I got to find a mate. And so I gravitated toward this person, and Della, it was just natural in me. I'm a natural charming person, and I can gravitate towards women, and I managed to.
That.
Thank you, and I managed to get her phone number, and we were going to practice this sport together. But I looked down at her hands, and I see a wedding ring, and during the conversation, I had been absent from this sport for about a month or two because of my hip. I have a bad right hip that needs to be replaced. So she had said to me, "I haven't seen you around. Are you new?" And I said, No, I've been taking some time off because of my hip." She goes into this conversation that she's in the orthopedic field, and we discussed the hip, but then the word husband popped up. My husband, blah, blah, blah. And of course, my stomach and my heart and everything just dropped, because she's married. So technically she's off limits.
Right.
But that thinking that got me in trouble in this last relationship kicked in. I was like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. If I can get her to come out and we go on dates, maybe so. I had to put the brakes on that because I was about to step into the tar pit once again, and
But I commend you. Good job for that. Good job. See, here's the deal. Good job for recognizing that, hey, seeing the fact that it's a ring on her finger, knowing the fact that there's a level that she's untouchable now, and then realizing, like, hey, wait a minute. I just went down this road. I don't want to go down this road again. And actually, even though she's trying to pursue you, you're stepping back and you're saying, hey, wait a minute. Nope, not doing that to myself again. So that's huge on you have to applaud yourself for that because that's huge. That's huge growth right there, Andrew. Huge.
and it's hard because I saw her this morning and she is very charming herself. And if I didn't know better, she's looking. I can already read. I shouldn't say I'm able to read people, but I could read that she might not be happy in her marriage, and she's looking for. How many times have you heard this? That people are not happy in their marriage, and if something better comes along, either an emotional affair or a physical affair will develop. I almost think that she's looking for me to come along and give her that opportunity. She wouldn't have willingly gave her phone number and offered to practice the sport during the week. Sunday mornings we play and we have a coach, but during the week I said to her, "Would you like to practice together?" And she jumped on it. Now I'm a stranger. I just met her 3 weeks ago,
Right.
and all of a sudden she gives me her phone number. So that tells me that she was willing to pursue something with me. No, she might have been on the up and up. She might have been just, look, we'll strictly play this sport. And
No, she wasn't, Andrew.
no, I know.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely not.
I know
Listen,
that.
if you wink and give her the okay, she's gonna be all over you like white on rice. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. You could still be her friend, but set boundaries. Listen,
Yeah.
you have all of the cards right now because you can drive this ship to where you want it to be. She doesn't have to be out of your life. You come in and you set the boundaries to tell her, hey, listen, I don't mind us still meeting up on Sundays, but I do understand that you're married, so there's not going to be anything more than more than friendship. So you can still, it's nothing wrong with having a female friend, but if you know that there's a level of untouchable, it's just like a guy that's married. If he's untouchable, then of course, you're respecting that relationship. It's nothing wrong with being friends. The only time it goes into unwanted territory is when you or the other person is pursuing something more and you both know that it's wrong. So you don't have to not talk to her, feel sort of out of place to talk to her or be around in her personal space, or even what is that, practice with her. But you can set some boundaries to let her know, like, listen, here's the deal. If you
But I'm vulnerable because I'm now single and I'm looking at my life like
okay, so then that's definitely not a good, that's not good.
And I know myself, and we both know that people who are in bad marriages or stagnant marriages are looking to talk to somebody else about their marriage. And my ex-girlfriend would sit on my couch the first 2 months and cry about when her husband cheated on her. And I would hear the story over and over again, and she would start crying, and I was there holding her. And so she was able to vent, and we bonded. There's with the love that was. Are you familiar with the term trauma bonding? Trauma bonding.
I'm familiar with that. Yes, I am.
It's almost the same thing. The person will present trauma that they have gone through, and then you feel sympathy for them and empathy, and they pull you in with that. And so my ex had a horrible childhood in her home country, and then she got to the United States. I heard all of the trauma. And of course, I was the knight in shining armor that was going to come rescue her. And I'm afraid that this person at my sport might see me as a potential person that, I can talk to this man about my marriage, and I don't want to be a marriage counselor.
Right.
So
That's a good observation.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
then
got to be
then
careful. I know myself.
yeah,
I know
then
myself.
but yeah, and I'm hearing that beautiful women are your weakness as well.
You got me. I don't know what to say. And by the way, it's not for anything, but both of these, my ex and this woman that I met, are from two different ethnicities, different countries and different backgrounds. So, yeah, I don't see color or skin or culture. I see a beautiful human being in front of me, and
Exactly.
I'm weak. I get weak, but my charm kicks in, and I find myself. This is why in the beginning of my podcast, I say I've been there and I'm still doing that. You know, the expression, I've
Right.
been there, done that. I'm
Been
still
there,
doing
done
it,
that.
Della. I'm
Right.
still doing it, and I
But
gotta stop.
listen, but we all are. We all are still learning and still growing because, like I said earlier, the things that you say, once you get out of a relationship, you say, okay, I'm never going to allow that again. I'm never going to have, no one is never. And then you sometimes find yourself going right back
Yep.
into sort of that same mode until you sort of look at yourself outside of yourself and say, okay, hey, wait a minute, let me back up. But 9 out of 10, a lot of times we repeat patterns in our past relationships. So how you get out of repeating patterns is you take time, like you're doing now. You take time because each relationship brings different things to you. It takes away from you as well as it brings to you.
Yeah.
So when you get out of a marriage or a relationship, you have to learn two things: the part that person played and the part that you allowed that person to play in your life.
Yep.
And once you focus and be honest and truthful with yourself to say, hey, wait a minute, yes, this person did these horrible things to me, but let me look at myself and see where I went wrong to allow this person to do those things. And then you have to honestly do the work to change those type of patterns for yourself. So moving forward, when you do go into another relationship, you're not repeating the same thing, or you don't just get another person, just a different face and a different name, but it's the same person.
I think I told you earlier that I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I'm in a 12-step program, and that's step 4. Step 4 is
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm coming up on 8 years, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And but yeah, step 4 is all about what part did I play in that event, or in this case, this relationship, and I played a big part because I allowed this person to continue. And like we discussed, I showed my vulnerabilities, and she took advantage of them. And Della, is there anything else that you would like to share with us along the terms of gaslighting, or advice you would like to give us? Or
in terms of gaslighting, I just would like to say that if you see from the beginning that a person is emotionally and mentally deflecting from it can be something minute. It can be a minute situation. If you see that they're deflecting and not taking accountability, you have to pay attention to that. Even if it's just the beginning of the person, you have to pay attention to the non-accountability in a relationship from the beginning, whether you're just talking on the phone, whether you're dating, whether you're whatever dynamic it is with another person. If accountability is an issue, there's a serious problem in your relationship, no matter what. Because accountability is huge from both parties. And if you're the one that's gaslighting your partner, then you have to stop, because it's an unhealthy dynamic and it's borderline abusive. So
do you think the gaslighter, I guess not everyone is the same, but do you think they know that they're doing it?
Of course they know.
Okay.
It's a control, Andrew, it's a control thing as well. Because the more you gaslight the person to believe that they're the crazy one, they're the one that's exaggerating, they're the one that's overreacting, you you have all of the cards in your hand. And then what happens is the other person, they tend to, after a while, they just want to appease you to sort of calm the situation down and make the situation better. And you're sitting free.
Yeah.
You're sitting free. So
Gosh.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I wish I could have got into a lot of the signs of gaslighting with you for different ways of looking at different signs of people look for in terms of gaslighting. I'm hope that you have me here again. I really,
I
really
would love
appreciate.
to have you on again. We could absolutely do another episode. Yeah, let's do that. Let's I'll air this in the next couple of days. And then we
Okay.
have the holidays. And yeah, Della, let's stay in touch. And yeah, I would love to do a part 2, and we can take a little bit of a deeper dive and look into
Narcissism, because I remember you mentioned you touched on a couple of things with me via email. So narcissism, if you want to get touch into that a little bit
absolutely.
more. um if you want to touch into trauma bonding a little bit more, we can do that, and the different signs of that. I don't have a problem with
Great.
definitely sharing and offering my expertise.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Uh, to my audience, Della, your practice is open. You're taking on new
My
patients.
practice is open. My practice is Spill the Tea with D. That's www.spillthettea with DEE.com. And I'm on Google. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is my business handle, Spill the Tea with D. Facebook is the same. Twitter is the same. So you can find me all on those
Good,
avenues.
good, good. I'll put all that in the show notes for everybody. So, Della, thank you again so much. This
Thank
was
you.
an absolute
Thank you for
delight.
having me.
And I wish I knew some of the stuff that you told us 2 years ago. Maybe I could have avoided this, but this is part of
It's
the
learning.
learning.
Listen, it's learning and growing. That's what it's about. Learning and
Absolutely.
growing.
Absolutely. All right, Della, we will do
Thank
this
you.
again. All right.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.